Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join our webinar today. We have some great guests, so we'll get started in a couple of minutes. Just want to get a couple people trickling in last minute, so give us about 3 minutes and we'll get started. Look forward to having you guys on the line today. Thanks so much.
Hey, Bethany, chat is only for the presenters, right? So people that join in right now, they can't comment or chat publicly.
Yeah, there's presenter chat and then there is live chat.
Because as we're waiting, as we give the people a few minutes to be trickling in, it's for people that want to share where they are in the world right now. That might be fun. I know I'm in Palo Alto, but I know Mikita is, somewhere in an undisclosed location in Europe that he may or may not want to disclose. So yeah, if people want to use the chat to share where in the world they're logging in from or which city out of the U.S., that might be fun as we're waiting another minute or two until we get this thing started.
That's a great idea, Steli. So if you guys are live on the line, if you could share with us in the chat, let us know you can hear us, and let us know where you're tuning in from today. We'd love to hear some feedback.
So Steli, you forgot the name of my motherland, but you covered it quite nicely. Yeah.
Belarus, my friend, Belarus. I did not forget. I just wanted to respect your privacy, and not disclose this information. But good call out. I could have. Yeah. Might as well have forgotten it. Who knows?
Yeah. Belarus, visiting our engineering team here now.
Oh, it's beautiful. What is the time? Is probably 9, 10, or 8 hours difference. What's the time difference?
It's 7 p.m. here, so it gets us at 8, I think. Right? Yeah, it's 8.
7? No, it's 10 hours. It's 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Yeah.
Yes, so if it's 10 hours, here it gets us 10 hours. Nice.
Yeah,
so
the winter and the summer.
So we've got one response. I'm going to butcher this name, but it's Cayuga Falls, Ohio. So thanks so much for letting us know where you guys are.
Nice.
We'll give everybody a couple more minutes here before we get started. Again, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We'll give everybody about a minute and a half before we get underway.
Yeah, so Mikita is in Belarus. I'm originally also from Europe, but right now physically I'm in Palo Alto in California. Let's see. So we're covering a pretty big time zone span here. And this is the cool thing when we do webinars like this. It's just usually there's people all around the country, but sometimes also all around the world in it, which is always fun.
Yeah. Pretty large time difference and a nice blend of accents.
That's very true.
Yeah, we're going to have 2 times today.
Yeah, it's charming for us, but it's challenging for everybody else.
Yeah.
There you go. Birmingham, is that Alabama? I think so, Alabama.
Yeah,
right?
Alabama.
Sweet.
Roll Tide. I'm a big college football fan, so.
I'm assuming people that are just logging in right now, they're like, I thought this is a webinar. Why are these people chit-chatting about different places in the world? I think we're going to get ready to get started in a very short period of time, but we're just giving people still time to log in. So what do you guys say, about a minute or so before we rock and roll?
Yeah, I think we're good to go.
All right, and we're recording this, so this is important for everybody that's listening. So the whole webinar is going to be recorded. I'm assuming The PandaDoc team is going to make sure to, give you guys access if you want to. If you want to share with your team or other people, going to be able to watch a recording later on.
Yep, that's right. So why don't we go ahead and jump in and get started, make some introductions and get underway. So thanks again, everybody, for joining the webinar this morning with PandaDoc and Close.io, how to make the right sales hires and keep them. Short introduction, my name is Bethany Fagan. I am the Partner Marketing Manager here at PandaDoc. And before we get too far underway, just a couple housekeeping items. We are recording this session, so we will be able to provide you guys with an on-demand version after the event. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to enter those into the questions panel within your BrightTalk console. We will do our absolute best to answer as many as we can at the end of the presentation, and would love to hear from you guys on some questions and where you're from and how you're tuning in today. So to get started here, I'm going to introduce our speakers. So first we have Mikita Mikado. He is the CEO at PandaDoc. Good morning, Mikita. Feel free to give a little introduction about and tell us about yourself.
Good morning, everyone. As you mentioned, I run PandaDoc, and what we do is we help thousands of sales teams and marketing teams to build and deliver beautiful proposals, error-free contracts, and not only we employ a couple dozens of salespeople internally, we work with many sales teams, many sales VPs, helping them with our product. So I'm excited to talk about hiring in sales, because I think it's crucial to get this right for every company, for every startup, for every founder, for every CEO.
Great. And our next presenter is Steli, CEO of Close.io. Steli, why don't you give a little intro into Close and a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thanks for putting the webinar together, guys. I'm super excited to talk about this subject, and I'll share with everybody that's in the webinar why this is something I deeply care about and why it's a topic that I know a thing or two about. So when we started the company, we didn't initially start as Close.io. We started the business as a company called Elastic Sales, and what Elastic did is it offered B2B venture-backed startups in Silicon Valley a sales team on demand. So what we basically did over a span of just 2 years was we helped over 200 venture-backed startups in Silicon Valley to scale their sales efforts. And we would create a repeatable and scalable sales process for them, but also hire the salespeople, kind of scale their sales team for the clients and for all these different companies. So as you can imagine, kind of our bread and butter during the Elastic Sales days was finding talent, sales talent, hiring sales talent, training and onboarding that talent really quickly, and deploying these sales resources to very different types of products and markets, and doing so competitively. So we learned a ton of things about how to hire salespeople, how to build great sales teams, and how to structure sales organizations. And in the process, from day one, we built a little software tool to help us and empower our salespeople to do a better job than their competitors. And that little software tool grew into something quite powerful that eventually we decided to release as a separate product called Close.io. And Close.io is a sales CRM that's focused on inside sales. So it just allows salespeople to make and receive calls, send and receive emails, and just boost their productivity and takes away a lot of the manual data labor that most salespeople have to make with other sales software tools out there. So we built this internally. It had developed to something that was quite powerful, and we released it. And then Close.io grew so fast within the first year of release that it outgrew the services business. And since 2014, that has been the company that we've fully focused on this. So we've only been running now a SaaS business ourselves and have grown it quite significantly. So today we started doing sales for other startups and building sales teams for other startups. And today we're selling a software tool for sales teams that is being used by thousands of sales teams all around the world. So selling is a big topic that's near and dear to our heart, and hiring salespeople and training them and making them successful is something we know a lot about and we care a lot about. So that's the background. And with that being said, let's just jump right into some of the basics in terms of sales hiring. I know that a lot of people here are, thinking about hiring salespeople or building a sales team for the very first time, right? And you're thinking about, you have a business, a product, a service, and you've gotten to a point where you're considering, how do I go about hiring a sales team and creating a sales infrastructure? And there's really 4 simple steps when it comes to hiring or building a sales organization when you are a startup or a small business or when you're just getting started. But in the very first step, it has to be founder-driven. What that means is that somebody at the top of the business, usually it's the founders, need to do the selling themselves. They need to experience the job themselves. You can't just never have sold a day in your life, never acquired a single customer and say, I've built this product and I'm going to hire some really amazing salespeople and have them do the job for me. I mean, I love that idea. I love if that was how it worked, but it is not a recipe for success. It's a recipe for failure. So to do it right, in the very first step, you need to sell yourself. You need to figure out how to sell, how people and prospects respond. And that very early days, it's not just about creating revenue. It's also, and much more importantly, about generating insights and learnings, truly understanding how do I reach my customer? Who is our ideal customer? Do we, send emails? Do we make cold calls? Do I need to show up in person? What is the message that resonates the best with them? So you have to experience that job yourself, even if you wouldn't call yourself a sales professional, and if you think other people are better at the task of selling, you as the founder and in the top management have to do the job before you are able to effectively hire for it. So step 1 is do it yourself. Step 2, after you've done a fairly, let's even call it in the worst case, a fairly poor job selling, right? But you've sold some, you've generated some revenue, you've made some progress on it. Now you're ready for step 2. And step 2 is you've done a little bit of selling yourself, you had some success with it. Now you're going to try to build a junior team around you, and you're going to act as the junior sales manager, right? So you go from founder-driven sales to founder-managed sales. And this is an important step, and a step that, again, many people try to avoid. They try to go directly from doing sales themselves to hiring somebody incredibly senior for selling. And I'll share why I think that is something you need to be careful about. So you want to do this selling, and then you want to help usually some more junior people to do the selling the way you've done it before. So all you're trying to do is you're trying to go from I've created some sales to can I teach some other people how to generate some kind of results as well? Can they get a customer acquired? Can other people kind of repeat the efforts that I've done with similar, maybe even better results? And you try, in those cases, an ideal case to hire in packs, right? So this is a tip and a hack I'll throw out there as a bonus right off the badge. If you want to hire for one sales position, you might want to, get 2 or 3 people onboarded to see who's going to be outperforming the others, to learn, again, about who's going to be the ideal salesperson for your type of product and your type of audience. But you go from doing it yourself to bringing in junior resources and helping them do what you've done and see, can this be replicated and repeated? And once you see some success there, then you go to step 3, which is bringing some junior sales leadership. The reason why it's important to be a junior sales leadership and not senior is that the junior sales leadership, that person is going to bring the relevant type of skill set and experience that you need at this phase. So at this phase, you might have 2 or 3 sales people. They're fairly junior. You're doing sales yourself as well. You're generating some results, but there's probably lots that can be optimized. What you want to do is you want to go and hire somebody that is 1 or 2 years ahead of where you are. It's somebody that is, let's say, at a similar startup than yours, and they just, they were where you were. There were just 3 or 4 salespeople a year or 2 ago, and they've grown that sales team to 20, 25 people, and that person has gone from being a junior salesperson to being a sales manager in that team. You want to hire that person. It's still a fairly kind of inexperienced sales leader, maybe just 1 or 2 years of sales management experience, but that person has the most relevant experience because that person just went through all the mistakes and all the learnings that you have to go through to get to that next level. And they will come in, and now they have something to work with. You are driving some revenue, you have some emails, you have some pitch decks, you have some processes in place, you have a few people, there's already a team in place, and they can come in and I'll take what you've done and improve it and instantly go, let's stop making these mistakes and let's implement these best practices. Oh, they will recognize, they will have pattern recognition, they'll come in and go, oh shit, I recognize this. A year ago, we were just in a team like this and we made all these things happen to grow by 10x. Let me help you implement the same strategies and get to the same kind of results. It's going to be magical. When you can bring in somebody that has like the experienced your future already and they just come in and implement all these best practices, it's a magical thing. So you bring that person and that person will improve on the sales pitch, improve on the sales processes, hire some more people and kind of grow your team a little bit and keep the party rocking and rolling. And once you have that going, and maybe that person, the team grows to a degree where you have to have subgroups, or another sales manager is being promoted. That's really the time to hire a senior sales leader, somebody that was either a senior director at some other company or even a VP of sales. And that person will come in at that phase. And now you have sales management, you have a junior structure, you have maybe 20, 30 people, you have some things that are really working. And that senior sales leader, that person is going to come in and look at that, and now that person is going to implement all the right tools to scale that sales organization really rapidly. That person is going to look at that and go, let's work on the commission and compensation structure. Let's work on the training. Let's work on the hiring process and interviewing process. Let's work on opening different offices. Let's work on territorial split of leads and how we're going to, that person's going to come in and work on processes and trainings and compensation structures and contracts and all these things that are going to allow the organization to scale and go from maybe 10 or 20 people to 200 or 2,000 people. And that's really, those are really the 4 steps. And if you hire the right people and do the right things at the right step, you're going to see great success. If you try to leapfrog this whole process, more often than not, you're going to get into some real trouble. Like most people try to hire a VP of sales as their first step. VPs of sales, they have a certain type of skill set. When they come in and there's an organization or a team already in place, they know how to scale it. They know how to improve on that. But they're not necessarily the best people to sell themselves or sell a product when it's day one and the product might have to be changed and they'll have to be out there in the trenches because they might have not sold anything themselves for over 10 years. Their skill set and experience and expertise lies in a different type of thing that you need at a later stage. So keep those in mind. First, do your selling yourself, then hire some junior people and manage them yourself, then bring in some junior sales management to take over what you've done and improve on it, and then bring in some senior sales leadership to take the party going from there. All right. Next, now that we talked about I think the basics of the 4 steps of how you need to think about this, building your sales organization. The very next step is really asking yourself, where do we find talent to begin with, right? Okay, I want to hire some people. I've done some sales myself. I want to hire some people. Where do I find that talent? Just a few quick notes on that. Obviously, you can go to all the obvious and public places, right? You can do your job postings. You can go to all these public places where your company can post that you're hiring sales reps and have CVs trickle in. That can work sometimes, but it might get you a varying degrees of success in terms of the quality of people. Because the thing you need to realize is that the most talented, there's 2 types of salespeople that you want to hire. There is the people that are already experienced and are crushing it. And these people are not going to be looking for your job postings anywhere. They're in high demand. They have a job. They make a ton of money. They're not looking for jobs. They're being recruited. They're not applying for work. And then there's the other group of people, and those are the super junior, diamonds in a rough kind of sales talent. Many of them might not even know that they could be amazing at sales. So they're not looking for sales jobs as well most of the time. So in sales hiring, more often than not, you have to do a lot of recruiting. It's going to have to be very active. The best and first place you should look at is your immediate environment and network. Most of the people that we hired at Elastic Sales, where we built this massive sales organization, most of those hires, they started within our immediate network, friends, family, friends of friends, and then we just expanded from there. So, we used this process that was very simple. We would hire somebody, and we would ask ourselves first, who could be amazing at sales that doesn't realize it yet? That's a very powerful question to ask. Who could be amazing at the job of sales but doesn't realize it? Because most people, I'm considered a sales guru in many circles, and I didn't grow up dreaming about becoming a sales guru or a salesperson. Most people that are amazing at sales, they didn't grow up thinking they would be great at sales. They kind of discover that later in life. So there's a lot of hidden talent in areas if you start thinking about it more broadly. And instead of asking, who is a salesperson I could hire, you need to ask yourself, who is somebody that has sales talent? Who is somebody that I might know that's very good, very communicative, high tolerance for rejection, somebody that's a go-getter, a hustling type of personality, somebody that's very ambitious, that could be really great at sales, but they're doing something completely different today. And then go out and try to hire these type of people. And every time you hire somebody, every time we hired a salesperson, the first thing they did on their day one, we would sit down with them and would ask, who do you know that could be amazing at sales but would never take a job here? And then they would give us, because if you ask people, who do you know who would want a sales job, their filter will bring you the worst kind of talent, right? Who is somebody who doesn't have a job right now who might be able to be good at sales? But we asked that question in a much broader fashion. Who is somebody that you think is incredibly talented that would never work here? And those names are interesting. And then I would call these people up the first day as that salesperson was sitting next to me and would go, hey, I'm just talking to Bob. It's his first day here. And one question I like to ask the new people that work at our company is, who's somebody that's brilliant? Who's the most brilliant person you know? Who's somebody that's really amazing? And who's somebody who would never work here because they're just too talented? And the first name Bob brought up was your name. So I thought I'll call you and I say hi. I always like to talk to brilliant people. And that's how we'd start the recruiting call. And you would be surprised. We had people that were, that were just accepted to get into Harvard, and it was their lifelong dream, and they ended up working for us as a salesperson. We had people that were engineers at NASA working for us as salespeople. We had people from all walks of life. None of them thought they wanted to be salespeople that ended up working for us as salespeople. So the best place to look is where most people won't look, and that is not just looking for people that already have a sales job and a sales career, but look for people that have sales potential and go and try to acquire that. All right, so now that we know where to look for talent, especially where to look for talent where most people are not looking, how do you really interview a salesperson? This is a very popular question. Lots and lots of people ask me this question all the time. Steli, what's the best interview question I can ask a salesperson? Or how do I know if somebody's going to be good or not good in sales in an interview? This is a challenging one. There is not an ideal or perfect question you can ask. I'll give you a few ones, but from a philosophy point of view, or from a general point of view, what I want you guys to understand is that it is almost impossible in an interview setting to know if somebody's going to be great at sales or not. And I know it's a bummer, but that's just the reality that I've experienced. It's like asking somebody, what kind of interview question do you need to ask someone to know if they're going to be an NBA basketball star? I don't know. I mean, there's some questions you can ask that are indicators. There's a lot of questions you can ask to judge somebody's character, to judge somebody's culture fit to your company. But are they going to be good in sales or not? The only way to know that is to let them sell. And not just one day or 1 week or 1 month, but to observe them doing that job over a long period of time. Because most people, to know if somebody's good, you need to know if somebody's really able to perform at a really high level consistently and persistently. And there's no substitute other than working with them over a longer period of time to really know. But some things that I would do in an interview, just to give you guys some tips, is obviously, you want to ask some questions about what drives them, why they want a sales gig, what motivates them in life, and all that good stuff. You want to ask them some things that are maybe culturally specific to your company and what you're looking for in people. But you definitely want to ask them questions about, you want to ask them some questions about their prior sales experience, even if it's very little, or how they, even if it's a question on like what was their most pleasurable, what was the most powerful experience they've ever had in buying something or being sold something. When was a time when somebody sold you something that really left a lasting impression? That can tell you a lot about somebody. But the best thing that you can do in an interview is to throw some practical tests at them, do some mock calls, have them pitch you something. Even if they've never sold something, you look at them and you see, do they have an iPhone or an Android? Do they have any kind of phone? Let them sell you that phone to you, or let them sell you a service that everybody's using, like Google. How would you pitch me Google if I've never heard of a search engine, right? Just have them sell you something very obvious. Be playful, but just see how they react under that type of pressure. And they don't have to be perfect, but they need to be able to rise to the occasion and like to communicate. And especially after they've done a first pitch or so, if you give them some feedback, you want to do it again and see, are they coachable? Can they take some feedback on board? How are they responding to that type of stuff? Now, a lot of people will ask me, well, I'm interviewing somebody. I'm trying to judge them. Are they going to be good at sales or not? Granted, it might take a lot of time past the hiring decision to really know if that was a good decision, but I still need to make some judgment call. What is the ideal salesperson of the future, of the present, right? We know how the salespeople were in the past, but what kind of salesperson is going to, or personality type is going to be the most successful in the future? And I have a very strong opinion on this. Back in the day, and this is mostly why salespeople have such a bad rap, deservedly so probably, is that back in the day, the ideal salesperson was this, what I would call a wolf, right? Let's take the Wolf of Wall Street movie type of character, or this hyper-aggressive alpha male or female, hyper-competitive, elbows out. I'm going to destroy the competition. I'm going to get all the money, the Rolex, the Ferrari driving, hard-nosed sales dude, happy to lie, cheat his way into any deal and is just in it for the money, right? We all have a picture in mind of what that type of person looks like. And that was, for a long period of time, that was a very successful archetype in sales. And even to this day, there's some industries and some verticals where if you are somebody that's hyper aggressive, and what I would qualify as somebody that has unfriendly strength, right? If you look at that quadrant at the top left, it's somebody that is unfriendly, which means they're in it to take things away from you. They want to take the money from the customer. They want to take things away from the competition. They are at war. They're unfriendly. They're not there to help. They're not here to create value. They're there to enrich themselves by taking things away from others. So they're slightly unfriendly, but they're doing it from a position of strength. When you're that type of person, the reason why they succeed is they just bully people around. And it's unfortunate, but they can't succeed. They're just bullying people into submission. They would bully customers out of their money. They would bully their competitors out of their leads or whatever. And it's not pleasant, but in many cases, it could generate some short-term success. Now, back in the day, that model was a lot more successful than it is today, and tomorrow it's going to be almost impossible to do this. And the reason for that is that information now is public and is easily shared, and it's forever. So if you sell me something, you bully me into buying it, and the next morning I wake up and I have buyer's remorse, it's very easy for me to either cancel or to publicly share my dissatisfaction, to rate your service, to write a blog post on how I was bullied and how I was mistreated. And that stuff is going to live forever. So when people look up that company or that salesperson specifically, they'll find a lot of bad things about that person. And that reputation, it used to be that somebody could bully people around a town, and then when they got all the money from all the people from a specific market, they would just move into a different town, right, or a different place and start over. That is becoming increasingly difficult. And more services and products are sold as a service on subscription with 30 or 60 or 90-day money-back guarantees and all kinds of other ways that allow dissatisfied customers to kind of change their mind and change their decision. So that model of being a bully doesn't work. Now, the exact opposite of it, which is we have the unfriendly and strong people with the friendly and weak people, that model doesn't work either, because these are the people, ideally, this should be the most popular humans on earth, the people that are friendly and weak. But because they're weak, they are mistreated. Unfortunately, somebody that's acting out of a position of weakness will inspire other humans around them to be bullies, right? Because that's just socially how we've learned to interact with each other. So if you think about the friendly and weak person, that's somebody that's apologetic at all times that they exist and they're breathing. There's maybe your favorite arts teacher, somebody that's like very soft-spoken and always like, I'm sorry, but maybe you want to buy this. Oh, if you don't, it's also okay. That person obviously can't sell and can't be successful because that weakness, the position of that fear, weakness that they're coming from, that will not inspire confidence, that will not make people feel attracted to them. It's a big turnoff. And people don't want to buy from people that seem to be weak and apologetic and pushovers. So that model won't work. So the ideal salesperson that you're trying to look for, the archetype of the future, I think, in sales, is somebody that possesses friendly strength. Somebody that wants to create value, wants to help customers, wants to make the world a better place, but approaches that from a position of strength in unapologetic fashion. The best model to think about this is think about a good parent or a good doctor or a lawyer, some expert in their field, right? It's somebody that, if you go to a good doctor, it should be somebody that's friendly, somebody that cares about you, somebody that takes the time to listen to you and really figure out what is the problem, what are your issues, what's going on with you. But once they have diagnosed you and they know exactly what the issue is, they will give you a prescription. They will give you a solution from a position of strength. They're not going to be like, I don't know, I'm just a doctor. Maybe you should do this, maybe something else. I really don't know. Maybe you should make up your mind. No, that's not going to make you feel great. You want a doctor that's going to, once they know what's up and they're diagnosed what your issue is, you want a doctor that's going to look you in the eye and go, I've seen this many times before. I know exactly what we need to do. Here's our game plan. We're going to do A, B, and C, and then you're going to be better. And the same way applies to a great salesperson. It's going to be somebody that's friendly, that leans in, that listens, that cares, that wants to understand the customer, the prospect needs, and wants to really know that your product or solution is going to be the right fit for them. But once they know, there's a flip, and they look the customer or the prospect in the eye, and they go, I know exactly what you need to do. Our product is the right fit for you. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to buy this amount and this plan. We're going to do it today at these conditions, and then we're going to move you over to this team that's going to help you onboard you and train you. And within the next, X weeks, you're going to see this amount of increase, or this problem will go away, and we're going to really help you get to the next level. You want to have a salesperson that can be friendly and strong. If you find that unusual combination, you have somebody that's going to be amazing at the job of selling. Now, when you find that type of person, you want to close the deal yourself. You want to make sure that you send them a letter, an offer letter, send them a contract, give them a deal that they can't refuse, and you close as quickly as possible. And my man, Mikita, has a ton of experience with that, so he'll tell you guys a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Steli, I loved your story. Absolutely loved it, because finding someone who is friendly and strong at the same time is exactly what I kind of like came to after interviewing hundreds of salespeople. And I totally agree with you. So now that we've found the right talent and we know how to do that, it's important to close them, right? And closing on a hire requires some sales skills. So what you just said about the importance of every founder to be a great salesperson, that I 100% agree here. Even if you're an engineer, if you're a product guy, if you're a scientist, you still have to sell as the CEO, as the founder, because the most important selling is the selling of your business to the prospective employees, the selling of your vision so that they join you, because the best ones are going to have a lot of options. So that process requires building a rapport, excitement, trust, respect, and you have to close. And all those are core sales skills, and it takes time to develop them. It takes time to build them. However, there is one part of the closing process, employee closing process, that could be mastered quickly and easily. And that part is very important for successful closing. That magical part is getting the offer letter done right and then signed by a prospective employee. So that's what I want to talk about today, because I think that this is one thing that could be mastered by everyone and anyone, and it could be done like real fast. So in sales terms, the offer letter is the closing document. It's the sales proposal of this particular transaction, of this hire, and this is the document that tells your prospective employee why they should choose your company over other options. And once an offer letter is signed, 99% of the time, someone won't back out of an offer. So once that offer letter is signed on, a deal is closed. So when it comes to sales reps, it's likely that a good sales rep will receive multiple offers if they've been looking for a position, or they might have a good job already. And you got to ensure that your offer stands out. So one thing I recommend to do is to invest in the design and content of the offer letter. A good offer letter always includes the following. First of all, e-signatures. That allows the candidate to commit ASAP. They don't have to print the offer out, like sign it, scan it, send it back to you. Make it super easy for them to commit, to basically say, yes, I want to join you, here's my signature. Again, if you got the signature on the offer letter, they're not going to back out. The next part is terms. What I prefer to do is I prefer to replace lengthy legal terms within the offer letter with a short and clear explanation of what we're offering. Once that offer is signed, you can follow up with a lengthy contract with all the terms your lawyers require you to have. But keep that first document, keep that closing document short, simple, so that they don't have to think too much. At least not about the legalese and terms and all that stuff. And then finally, add photos or videos. That one is actually kind of novice, and that's what we discovered. Here's why. Decision on joining a company is usually an emotional one. And when you show what a fun environment they could potentially join with visuals, when you add team photos or a promo video that highlights your company and your team, that's when your offer becomes humane, and that's when your company becomes personal. So it's a great way to make it personal. It's a great way to make it humane. Add a video, add a photo, add their own photo in that offer letter. And as a matter of fact, that works too. So the next one, once you got this offer letter done pretty well, let's say you set up a template and you're utilizing that template over and over. The next step is to follow up timely. And it's kind of a hack, but once you deliver that offer letter, you want to make sure you follow up with your candidate as soon as possible. So for me, the perfect timing is 20 minutes after they've read through the offer letter. That's the time when a candidate is seriously thinking about joining your company. They just read it, they're thinking about it, they're ready to have a conversation. And we're using PandaDoc, of course, internally to send out offer letters, so that way we can track when the offer letters open and what candidates are looking at within. And you can find out if they're spending a longer period of time on the benefits part of the offer letter, or are they looking at your vacation policy or a compensation plan. And then getting that intel helps to make you build a conversation around the topics that are relevant and make that conversation a lot more meaningful and a lot more impactful. So the next tip and the next suggestion is to avoid negotiations as much as you can. A healthy negotiation is good, it's healthy, and it also helps to determine if a prospective sales rep knows how to negotiate in a nice and intelligent manner. But as I mentioned before, joining a company in many cases is an emotional decision. It's like a marriage, right? And I don't have a single married friend who ever said, negotiating on our marriage contract made our wedding so much more exciting. Like, that just never happens. So to minimize that part or to avoid it completely, I typically offer two compensation packages, two compensation options to a candidate that they can choose from. And since PandaDoc is still a startup and all the key hires have stock, we have a little bit of leverage, and we can offer two offers. One has a higher cash compensation with lower stock options, while the other has more stock options but lower base pay. And going with options helps to not necessarily just 100% take the negotiations away from the conversation, but it helps to frame that conversation and stay within acceptable boundaries, even if you have to negotiate. So now that we got sourcing, interviewing, and offer letters covered, let's imagine we got the best talent. They're joining our team and they're ready to rock and roll. But that's a half of the story, if not even less than that. Now it's really on us and to make them successful and to help them on board. And still, I'm sure you would agree with that. You've onboarded hundreds of salespeople. You've written a lot of content on it, which I'm a fan of. So let's talk about that, because that really matters, right?
Yep. I think just like with everything, today we don't care just about the acquisition of things anymore, but much more about the retention of things, right? Acquiring customers is important, but retaining them is equally, if not more important. And the same thing is with employees. You made somebody an offer, they accept it. Your employee issue is not resolved. Like, you're not done. You need to onboard them, and a lot of the success or failure of that new team member will be determined in those first few weeks. So here's a few simple things that you need to do when you hire a new salesperson. When it comes to training them, you really want them to start taking action as quickly as possible without leaving them completely alone. So there's two mistakes that a lot of companies do. One is you're too slow and soft on people, and you're setting them on the wrong pace. So you hire them and you tell them the first month, just read all these books about sales and, just observe how we do work. That's obviously way too much time of the new sales hire not doing any selling. But the other extreme is hello, you don't know anything about our product or service, but here's the phone. I already dialed the first number. Start closing deals for us, right? That's obviously way too fast. You do it too fast, you'll break them. You do it too slow, you make them soft, and you set them up on a pace that they will never be able to be successful. So you need to find a good balance between the two. There's three key things you can do to onboard and train them really successfully. Obviously, there's much more things. They can read things. They can do some research, this, that, and the other. But the core three training and onboarding principles are these. Number one, you want them to shadow the work of others that are succeeding, right? Shadow means I'm sitting next to somebody and I'm observing them as they do their job. I'm dialing in on the calls that this person has. I'm walking into the meetings with this person, and I'm observing what does a successful salesperson look like, walk like, talk like, act like. What is a day at work of a successful salesperson in this company like? So you want to make sure that I shadow success, right? Not just any type of salesperson, but the most successful people, so I can observe and hopefully mimic what makes other people successful. So you let them shadow salespeople. You do mock trainings with them. This is a very important component. You actually have them go through the exercise of pretending they're making a cold call or pretending they're making a presentation, and you play the prospect. And then at the end of that whole the mock training situation, you give them feedback so they can improve on it, and you allow them to do it again. That's obviously a very safe environment. They can't, destroy any deals. They can't upset any customers. They're training, but it's as real as possible. It's not intellectual. They're not thinking about what selling would look like in your company. They actually have to pretend, talk, and speak to you as if you were a customer. So you do mock trainings, and you do lots of them. And then the last but not least is you have to let them experience some reality. You have to talk them to real prospects. But obviously, you're going to start with the easiest prospect. And easy typically is a mixture of small and hopefully friendly, right? Some companies, they say, what are the worst leads we have? The leads that are going to be the least interested in talking to us. Let's give them to the new guys. That's not a good idea. Obviously, they're not going to get anything out of it. But also what you're going to do is you're going to make that beginning experience of selling for your company so difficult, so unpleasant, so crushing that a lot of people are not going to get the inspiration, motivation to keep going. So you want to make sure you give them some easy stuff, easy, small, friendly leads to work with, where if they mess it up, it's not the end of the world. But if they're a little shaky at the beginning, they might still experience success because they're working with, quote unquote, easy prospects rather than difficult ones. On all these three key things when it comes to onboarding and training, an additional pro tip is to record all of this. Allow people, advise them, and empower them. In some cases, it's mandatory. It's up to you if you want to do that or not. But allow people to record themselves, maybe just audio, even better if it's video, while they are doing mock trainings or while they're talking to real prospects, and then have them watch or listen to their, to how they were selling and analyze their own performance and do that on a daily basis. It's one of the fastest kind of training steroids you can implement in your team to really get massive performance jumps. Because nothing is more bittersweet than the medicine of observing you and, seeing how you messed this up or how you really spoke or how your energy was. In the moment, it's going to be really hard for people to know and understand how their performance was truly. But if they're able to listen or watch themselves after the fact, it's going to be a very kind of eye-opening experience. It's going to help them see where their weaknesses lie and what they need to change and improve on. All right. Now, we have, onboarded the new salespeople. We're training the new salespeople, but we have to structure our team in some way, right? Especially as we're hiring more people, we're going to have to create an organizational structure. And I want to just briefly touch on three basic structures that most sales teams are organized in. So you guys have the knowledge of what is available. How can I structure my sales team? There's three simple ways to do this. One is the all-in-one, everybody is their own island kind of a sales structure, right? And these are the sales organizations where when they hire you, every salesperson has to do everything on their own, and they are on their own. You have to do the prospecting, the lead generation, you have to do the outreach, the qualifying, you have to do the closing, the account management, you have to do it all, and there's no teamwork, there's no collaboration, there's no one person passing anything on to another. Everybody is on their own and has to do everything at once. That was a very popular way of doing sales and organizing sales structures. Again, back in the day, it's becoming less and less popular because it's not as effective in most modern companies and company cultures, but it's still a potential way to do it. The next way to do it that gained popularity, I would say, over the past 10 years more is the, 10, 15 years is the assembly line way of doing it, right? So what that means is that you have a sales team that's kind of structured like they are experts at different points of the assembly line, and they all are just putting pieces together until the entire deal is closed. So a lot of times what this will mean is that you have you have a lead gen team or an SDR team, right? Sales development reps. Back in the day, they were called qualifiers or prospectors or whatever branding you want to give it. But this is part of the team that's responsible to create new leads, new prospects. And then they would pass it on to the account executives, right? Or the quote unquote closers. These people would get, demos already scheduled with qualified prospects, and their job would just be to sell, and close the deal, right? They didn't have to worry about lead generation or prospecting or qualifying anybody. They would just get these ready-made prospects that needed to be closed and sold. So you have the qualifiers or the SDRs, you have the account executives, and then you would pass it on to the maybe success managers and so on and so forth. You could, make this as complex or as simple as you want it. It could just be two different groups, or it could be 4 or 5 or 6 different groups, depending on the complexity of your sales cycle. But the whole idea is that you break the sales process up in different pieces, and you specialize people on those different phases, and you hire for these different phases. And then the third way of structuring your sales team is a way that's getting more popular very recently, and these are the pods. And pods are similar to the assembly line in the sense that you still have specialists. You don't have these generalist salespeople. You have these specialized people in sales. But instead of having all the SDRs in one group and all the account executives in another group and all the success managers in another group and all the support people in another group, and all these are different groups that have to pass on the leads to each other, you assemble little pods where you have, let's say, 2 SDRs, 1 or 2 account executives, 1 success manager, and 1 support person. And these 6 people make up one pod, and they own the customer. They are responsible for sourcing the customer, closing the customer, helping and training the customer, and then supporting the customer with all their needs. And the entire kind of circle stays within one group, one team that's responsible for the entire sales process. So you create these little pods of teams that are going out to get customers, but then also are maintaining the responsibility and the relationship with that customer. So that's the third way of doing it. Now, what are the pros and cons on all these 3 real quick? The all-in-one, the pro is it's very simple. You don't have to do any work. All the pressure, all the work is on the individual salesperson. The negative on it is that it usually leads to salespeople burning out. It leads to them performing not at their best. And it is usually the structure that most questionable sales organizations will choose. So it's not a very popular one. When it comes to assembly line versus pods, pros and cons there is very simple. Assembly line typically, very generically, will lead to a higher level of expertise within the certain group. So you have all the closers are one team. That will typically breed the expertise and the performance level of the closing team to go up, because there's a lot of competition, and my entire team is full of people that have the exact same job that I have, so I can compare myself, learn myself, and have competitive pressure with other people within my sphere. So assembly line typically will lead to better specialization and performance on the different teams. But the negative on the assembly line is then what the positive on the pod is, which is sometimes the assembly line will create a us versus them culture. It might create a blaming culture where the closers are like, well, you're giving us shitty leads, that's why our performance is bad. And the qualifiers are like, well, we're giving you all the good leads, but you are just shitty at closing. And it becomes this blaming game when things don't go right, and it creates these little cliques and groups that don't really understand each other as well, which is the benefit of the pod. The pod is a much friendlier environment where everybody might not be at the top of their individual sphere, but they understand the entire cycle of the customer. They understand what the qualifier is doing, or the SDRs are doing, or what the support people have to do. And so it becomes usually a more well-rounded organization that leads to less friction typically, right? But might not lead to as aggressive result as some of the assembly line sales team structures can. But those are the 3 ways, and you choose one that works for you and you do it. And if it doesn't work anymore, you choose another one and you experiment with that. But fairly simple stuff. All right, so congrats, right? We went somewhere and found sales talent. We interviewed it. We gave them a deal. They accepted it. We onboarded them. We trained them. We organized them. All that's awesome. Now, how do you make sure that you keep them, right? Because that's the people that go through all of this and then they perform really well and you really love them, these are the people you never want to let go of anymore, and you never want them to leave you. So, Mikita, my man, what do you do? I know you have a lot of thoughts on this and you're really passionate about this topic. What do you do to keep your employees happy and to make sure that the sales team stays on and keeps performing at the highest level and wants to stay with your company as they and the company grows and changes?
That's a whole new webinar, man. That's going to be a whole new webinar. We should probably do one of these days. Yeah, I do think that this is extremely important because usually you invest for a few months to get that employee up to speed, and you want to retain a person for a long period of time after this huge investment has been made. Once you spend that time and the effort to build your dream team, you have to figure out a way to retain them, and that's where a solid, well-defined, and authentic workplace culture comes in addition to an interesting work. That's what we as founders can ensure our companies have. It's our job. Again, as founders, we can invest in our employees and help them grow professionally. We can help them to build their networks. We can help them to build their personal brand. So one thing that we did is, and again, we have a little bit of a leverage since as a startup we have a employee option pool, and I just straight out loud, look guys, if you have someone you want to learn from, point to that person. Maybe that person would want to be an advisor. Maybe that person would come in and mentor you and your peers and bring you up to the next level. Or maybe that person would consult for us. Or maybe that person would be just cool to come in the office and I'll be able to sell him on this idea to become a better version of self and start mentoring younger folks. So that's one thing we do to help everyone to grow. Another thing we like to do is to ask every team member and set up a small budget associated with this ask to come up with the team event that the person is basically responsible for, that the person runs. And it doesn't have to be like, hey, organize a field trip for like 50 people. No, that's not the case. It could be, here's $200, pick 3 of your colleagues. As long as you're picking 3 people and they're showing up, that counts. But just, pick a few people and do something together. It doesn't matter where that is. Go to a bar. Some folks within our team go out and surf because we got Pacific Ocean nearby, so we can do that. And some folks go to some conferences, to some meetups, but that creates that bonding within the team, and that bonding is not kind of like top down. We don't have to organize like large trips or very, very difficult from organizational, operational standpoint endeavors, but it kind of like works from the bottom to the top, and it works and exists independently. So we highly encourage that, and I believe it builds a very good culture. It builds a culture of friends, and instead of people that compete with each other for whatever it is. Steli, any hacks on your end?
Yeah, as you said, this could be a topic for a whole webinar, maybe even more than just one. I don't know. I think you covered a lot of really good things. I don't think there's any hacks. Yeah, at the end of the day, the best way to keep people happy, I think, to me, is really the authentic piece is the most important one. Like truly understanding who you are as a person, which then means you understand who you are as a founding team, which then hopefully means you understand who you are as a culture and as a company, and who you are not, which is equally important. and being able to attract the right people and then to authentically express it with, like, not being afraid of any of the imperfections that are part of it. And maybe one hack I do have, if you're pushing me, which is that one little hack that I use a lot of times at the final stages of hiring somebody new is I'll play a game with them. And the game is a lot of times helping to determine if they're going to be happy at this company or not, which is I'll share something about our company that some people might hate, or that is, I think, bad about us or wrong, or where we're like not as great. And then I'll ask them to share something about themselves that is maybe not perceived as well by everybody. And we'll go back and forth. And the goal of the game is to discourage each other from working together. And the idea is, if we can come up with something that will make the other person go, oh, really? That's the kind of culture you guys have? Yeah, that is something I don't like, or that's something I wouldn't be able to be happy with. Then that's success. Like, I'd rather discourage you in the conversation than 6 months into you working for us, and vice versa. And if we can't discourage each other from working together, that is also typically a very good signal that, you know what, I told this person honestly what's wrong about our company and what's fucked up about us and where we make all the mistakes and what some people didn't like, and they are more interested than they were before in joining us, right? That, again, it's not a guarantee, but it's a pretty good signal. So being authentic in the interviewing process, being authentic from day one with who you truly are as a company, and not trying to pretend you're something you're not, or better than you're not, or trying to hide all the things that are not as great. I think doing those things is natural and human. We all want to be the best version of ourselves when we meet new people, when we want to attract new people. But it is a instinct and impulse that you need to fight. If you want to have people that are very, very happy at your company, you need to be fully yourself, as authentic as possible. And if you do that and allow them to be who they truly are, I think that can make a huge difference.
Yeah, I love that. In fact, I'm working on a culture constitution that basically talks about just that. Who we are, what are our what some people like within PandaDoc, within the founders, because I think founders and the first people that get hired in the company impact culture a lot. So that would be a fun topic for a webinar. But we've run over a little bit. Let's jump to Q&A so that we get at least a few questions covered.
Yeah, thanks.
Any questions,
Thank you very
guys?
much, Steli and Mikita. Really appreciate the conversation today. It looks like we have literally a minute left, and one question that I had come in, Mikita, how often are you checking in with your employees to make sure that company culture is maintained, would you say?
With my direct reports, once a week. So we have 70 people now, and unfortunately, I can't do it with every single person every week, and I can't even do it once a month. So with the folks that I think would benefit from those check-ins, I try to do it once a month, once a couple of months, and we also run quarterly surveys to check on the employee happiness.